And India's agri-ecosystem is in dire need of a sustainable way to boost production and combat climate change and other issues such as lack of irrigation and good quality seeds. But is Agritech the solution? How will it boost crop quality and production? I am in conversation with Agribazaar's Managing Director and co-founder Amit Mundawala, and Karthik Jayaraman is MD WayCool Foods. Also with us is co-founder of Unnati, Amit Sinha. You know, one of the bigger questions really is that when we talk about agri-tech, it also is a global comparison where you have large corporations and larger fields, while in the Indian markets, we deal with fragmented fields, smaller farmers, and also intermediaries on top of that. Karthik, how are you looking at this comparison, and how much time do you foresee before the agri-tech in India can make definite inroads?
I think, Manisha, you've touched upon an important point. Across the world, you find consolidated land holdings and consolidated customers. Consequently, the supply chains are relatively short and devoid of intermediaries. India's story is different. You need the intermediation in order to aggregate from fragmented supply and aggregate it from fragmented demand. Today, that intermediation is possible digitally rather than through physical intermediaries. And we're starting to see the evolution of an organized supply chain with fewer steps, using technology, because technology enables aggregation, it enables disaggregation, and it enables better planning. And I expect to see that there'll be hundreds of organized players connecting farm output to retail points. I equally expect hundreds of organized distributors moving inputs from input producers to farmers. I believe this will be the first phase of agri-tech absorption in the Indian food and agri space. The second phase will be directly connected to making agriculture climate resilient. The dependence on India of the world for food is increasing. At the same time, the uncertainty of production in India of food is also increasing because we face the impact of climate change, even though we are not the cause of it. Therefore, a lot of climate resilient technology and climate adaptation technologies, such as better prediction of weather, better prediction of diseases due to weather shifts, better quality seeds, and better quality natural inputs will be a major focus area, which will be the wave 2 of agri-tech adoption. The third wave will really be around precision agriculture, more of indoor farming, and alternative meats, which is currently what is the first wave in the West, will come to us in the third wave and not immediately. So this is how I see tech being absorbed in India, because first we have to solve for the basics, second we have to solve for what's urgent, which is climate adaptation, and third, we should solve for what's good to have.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Very well put. Agri as climate resilient and precision agriculture is something that has been a conversation for some time, but you've really put it in 1, 2, 3, and that perhaps is how it's going to play out as well. Mr. Mundawala, what is it that you see going forward as the need of the hour? How are you as a company working towards it?
See, we wish to be operating as a block level strategy, like say every block we should be having a radius, and so we wish to develop a primary procurement center, and where on an average 70 farmers are there per block. So if you have a correct database, then each and every farmer can be connected digitally. And if you solve the problem of when to sow or what to sow, that the climate can be synced together, and then we focus on increasing their yield through continuous advisory and helping them in getting the best of the agri inputs. And then the moment crop is ready, so when to sell is the again main point, where if the prices are not optimum that time, so we help them to store the commodity and get them commodity finance, and then gradually whenever the market is up to sell, then we help them to get buyer online or our e-market. So Star Agri and Agribazaar wish to be a full stack platform, pre-sowing till the commodity is disposed. We are trying to do each and every activity, which again at both ways, where at first step we are getting revenue of every step in a very minor way, and that doesn't pitch the buyer of that service particularly, and on a company whole itself. So our margins are good because we are into all the activities. So it's a win-win for both the parts. And as far as agri-tech in India is concerned, due to this fragment land and small farmer holding, if you have done the POCs and if you are through with India, then it can be implemented globally anywhere. Like say we are trying to set up things in Africa region also right now.
All right. Oh, well, yes, there's so much to do right now, and as much time as they keep saying. Mr. Sinha, this one is to you. What is it that you would look from government as a policy right now? I mean, as Mr. Mundawala keeps saying, that it is all about the database right now, and that is when you will start connecting the dots.
So definitely that is there. And as I was saying, what we expect the government is to build on the infrastructure at the backbone of the whole thing. So for example, the data for the farmers in various forms does exist across different sort of departments or different, maybe some in states, some in central government. Like there was a whole scheme of soil testing data and stuff which had virtually mapped every or the majority of the farms along with what the soil quality is and stuff. Now, what we can potentially do and which will make the job of people like us very easy and much and help us take the best of digital technology back to the farmer in the most efficient way is to go ahead and open up those data sets, obviously in a controlled manner because there would be definitely a lot of sort of sensitivity around the data. But then there can be ways, just like we have done in payments and we have done the whole Jam Trinity, we have opened up the data sets in a way that newer solutions can be built on top of that. Now that is something that would really accelerate the pace of deployment of technology in this segment. One other thing that I think which we have been propagating is that, while the supply chains and all are longer in a country like ours, because of the smallholder farmer nature, we have to co-opt the intermediaries into the platform rather than trying to disintermediate them. And that is where the play of the technology for the next potentially 1 or 2 years, where a lot of such platforms will get built up across the country, which are more horizontal oriented with services like credit being offered based on the cash flow that the farmer might be expected to generate rather than the asset base that he might have. So a lot of such, evolved or I would say nuanced services then being tailored to each and every crop is something that would come up. Now the underlying infrastructure of data and technology, if it is being built by the government, will really lead to a very, very fast adoption of such newer solutions and build up of those solutions in every nook and corner of the country.
All right. Mr. Sinha, one word question really. What crop do you see most Agritechs really focusing on?
So, it's across the spectrum. So as a country, we are the top 2 or 3 producers of a lot variety of crops.
Right.
Okay. We are perhaps, I think we are the second largest in wheat. Paddy is a major crop. And there are different Agritech players focusing on different crops. Okay. So for example, and each of these crop value chains are very unique. A vegetable value chain is very different from a fruit value chain and from a wheat value chain versus a paddy value chain. Now, the solutions that we need to build up and which will be at the end of the adopted will have to sort of cater to each and every value chain in its entirety rather than trying to, again, I would come back to the same sort of solution being tried to be retrofitted into every segment.
Right.
So you will see that every Agritech player would have a focus on a few crops or maybe on a not more than 3 or 4 or 5 crops because the value chains are different and the approach to solving the problems in that value chain has to be very different from the other crop value chain. So to that extent, and that's where it's a huge market and a huge opportunity. If we keep the heads down approach of solving the solution in that particular crop segment, it will go ahead and lead to a very beautiful India first solution which can then be exported from our country across the world.
I'm sure that is the focus right now. But a final question, and this one is to you, Karthik. So when we talk about commodities and many of these essential commodities, and whether it's fruits and vegetables, because all inflation, all farmer-centric stuff comes out of this, are Agritechs also working with the government? Since, as Mr. Sinha spoke about, it's about wheat, it's about essential commodities. How much are you in touch with the policymakers?
We work closely with the governments, both central and state, for multiple initiatives. One recent initiative, for example, is with the guidance of the UP government. We were, for example, able to grow higher quality potato in UP and get it exported to geographies such as Malaysia as well as the Middle East. This increases farmer income and it also improves the profitability of the entire value chain. It also encourages the introduction of newer varieties of products into the agri supply chain. Similarly, there are initiatives where we are working to reduce food miles why not grow where closer to the point of consumption rather than transport product more than 1,000 kilometers and thus creating carbon emissions and adding cost. So the third is, of course, introduction of FPOs, creation of FPOs and organization of agriculture. So these are the types of initiatives that we work closely with multiple state governments as well as the center.
Okay. So a lot of work being done, and on top of that, it's about the agriculture, which is climate resilient, precision agriculture, database availability is a big one, and infrastructure that can be created around agriculture and weather being taken into consideration, of course, with state governments, as all of you mentioned. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, and that was a very enlightening conversation, by the way. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Commodity Champion. News continues on CNBC TV18 on the other side.